Race swapping, the art of taking a character from their source material and swapping their race when giving them their big screen or small screen debut. These castings always divide fans. You have the crowd that cry woke SJW madness, the crowd that just want to see their characters portrayed on the big screen as originally presented, the crowd who are happy to see more diversity and representation on screen, and the crowd who don't really care and just want to see a film. In this video, I'll be taking a look at castings from fictional source materials and castings of historical figures, and coming up with an answer that will in no way appease everyone. So the most recent castings of Leslie Grace as Batgirl, Sasha Calle as Supergirl in the upcoming Flash film, and here in the UK we had Jodie Turner-Smith playing Anne Boleyn in a historical drama, have sparked a hell of a lot of debate. So let's start there with the historical figure casting of Jodie Turner-Smith as Anne Boleyn. One thing that people who are fundamentally against race swapping always bring up is that, well, you wouldn't cast a white person to play Nelson Mandela. And you're right, you wouldn't. Because this negates the clear and obvious fact that black historical figures and other minoritized race historical figures, such as Malcolm X, Dr. Junior King, Mandela, Harriet Tubman, their race is directly linked to their story. So race swapping that character would dramatically change their story. Whereas race swapping Anne Boleyn does not. Historian and author Gareth Russell went on an incredible tirade on Facebook over the casting of Jodie Turner-Smith. I'm going to read that to you now because it's brilliant. Anne Boleyn lived in a pre-racial society. She didn't have much going for her in terms of the century she was born in, but it at least spared her by about 100 to 200 years of coexisting with the crockpot of pseudo-scientific psychobabble that eventually became racism. Race, thus, quite simply, did not define Boleyn's life in the way. Obviously, it impacted Harriet Tubman's, who was enslaved because of it, or Nelson Mandela's, who was imprisoned under a system of racially defined segregation. The reason why those are absurd casting comparisons is because there is a vast chronological chasm inflicted on Western history by racism, which Anne Boleyn stands on the other side of. Tubman, Mandela, King Jr., indeed anyone associated with slavery, emancipation, or the US civil rights movement stands on the other side. Thus, casting somebody as a different race to somebody in the 16th century carries none of the comparable weight to doing something similar to a figure from the 18th, 19th, or 20th centuries. So the historical context of the person being race swapped, surprise, surprise, is incredibly important. Not that I'm going to look to internet trolls to really give a damn about context. Of course, historical context is also really important when talking about the musical Hamilton. There we have race swapping on an off-the-chart scale. However though, with Hamilton it's not just the historical figures that are being race swapped. The whole musical is recontextualizing the historical context in order to show the importance of black and brown immigration to the US. Take that with a pinch of salt, considering the historical context of black and brown people in the US. They build it off of slavery, not off of immigration. The real question in terms of the casting of Jodie Turner-Smith as Anne Boleyn is actually, why are we even retelling Anne Boleyn's story again? Specifically here in the UK, there is an oversaturation of content around the Tudors, Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn, etc, etc. Why not instead tell the story of a prominent black Britain and have Jodie Turner-Smith play that part? Money is the answer, I think. I think it's money because the Tudors and Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn still sell. But we are beginning to lean very close to the overall answer in all of this. First though, let's take a look at the fictional characters and the race swapping there. On the whole, I really don't have an issue with race swapping characters who were originally of an overrepresented demographic to an underrepresented one. Why? Well, there's your answer. It's about getting over that hurdle of over and under representation. Sometimes I feel that everyone tends to forget that white characters, and in particular white male characters, are heavily overrepresented in Hollywood still, and this is in terms of proportionate representation. And therefore that very loose myth of white erasure is obviously unfounded and completely dumb. And yes, race swapping is a one-way street. A lot of minoritized race characters have their race and culture tied into their story. If you were to have a white Princess Tiana, for example, you would lose the storyline of her not being able to get the restaurant due to the colour of her skin. If you were to have a white T'Challa, a white Black Panther, you would lose the very essence as why Black Panther was created by Marvel in the first place. These are things that people actually say on the internet, and usually I just don't take it seriously because it is baked in a place of ignorance and shouldn't be given the time of day, but it's kind of cathartic for me to finally be bringing it up in a video, so... And look, there is genuine cause for concern when it comes to race swapping. There is a plethora of minoritized race characters already established in fiction who aren't having their stories adapted onto the big screen, in favour for race swapping an already established white character. Recently, Warner Brothers announced that they'll be making a Superman film with J.J. Abrams at the helm, and they'll be having a black Kal-El, a black Clark Kent. Alongside that, the actor Michael B. Jordan has announced that he'll be making a Val Zod film, an already established black Kryptonian. And here lies my answer to race swapping. It is merely a quick buck sticking a flimsy plaster over a leaking pipe at bursting point. It is not going to solve underrepresentation in film and TV. That being said, it is a solution that offers a pathway. The announcement of Leslie Grace as Batgirl came out on the same day as the trailer for The Last Duel dropped, a film that has an all-white cast. People were more angry at Leslie Grace becoming Batgirl than they were at an all-white cast. If you are someone that calls for more genuine representation but doesn't like race swapping, I ask you, please bemoan the films that have an homogenous casting such as that, rather than the films that are trying to make some form of effort to bring better diversity and representation to our screens. If the big hitters do well, that will open the door for the smaller, original stories that we all are dying to see. Want to understand more about representation and tokenism? Click this video right there. If you want to see more videos exactly like this one, then make sure you click that playlist right there. And subscribe here, turning on the bell notification. Until next time, Hakuna MaChatter.